Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is attending the session today. Today, we're going to be talking about a very hot topic which has been discussed around the globe from past couple of decades, which is related to the cyber threats. Today, we have been joined with the very powerful panel and all from all around the globe. And I would like to engage the audience and with the discussions related to the cyber threats against the digital, combating the against this digital threats with information security. So we will have a deep dive going forward in order to discuss several aspects of our digital, the cyber threats to our digital landscape. So before we start, I would like to request the participants to kindly introduce yourself. So let's start from Arif Sab to please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. ArifShaikh from Progatix.
Alaikum
I'm
assalam.
working as a CIO. Progatix is basically a software house working since last 23 years now. We have developers over 100 plus. We also deal in IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, different levels of partnership of hardwares. Basically, we are a complete house of solutions. We can provide any kind of solutions.
So in short, we can say it's a one-stop shop for the technology
Exactly.
buyers.
Exactly.
Right. Pleasure to have you, sir, on the panel.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move to the next panelist, Yousaf Saab, to kindly requesting you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Mr. Ahmad. I'm glad and honored to be part of this discussion with all the other esteemed speakers in today's panel. My name is Yousaf Faisal, as you mentioned, and I'm an independent IT and OT ICS cybersecurity advisor and consultant, currently founder of Securing Things for the last 2 years. I have well over 2+ decades of industry experience serving organization both in Pakistan initially, as well as in the last 16, 17 years globally, especially across the APAC region. I started my career in computer networking and gradually transitioned within the first 4 years or so towards cybersecurity. I've worked both on the end user side for my initial years, as well as later on in the last 16, 17 years on a consultative advisory capacity. And have led multiple cybersecurity practices like forensics, GRC, PCI, DSS, some emerging tech, professional cybersecurity services across the APEC region in my previous roles. These days, I'm spending most of my time in between Pakistan and Hong Kong, related to work and personal reasons. And I'm very much looking forward to this discussion, knowing you all. This is the first time we are speaking in our discussion, and I'd like to thank CxO Forum for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yusuf Sir, for giving us a very comprehensive introduction. And we're certainly looking forward to share a lot of your knowledge and experience with the audience today. So without any further ado, we'll move forward with the next panelist. Khurram Saab, kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak over here in this esteemed CxO Global platform. First of all, I will tell you about myself. I am Khurram Saif, and I'm working as a group head IT infrastructure and telecommunications at Dr. Ziauddin Group. Dr. Ziauddin Group consists of hospital, university, school, college, and other editorial platforms. So it's a big group. It's a giant in healthcare and education sector. As far as my expertise concerned, I have been with Mizan Bank for 5 years, with FMCG and warehousing sector, Abu Dhabi with over 10 years. And after that, in a retail sector, Imtiaz, I have worked for over 3.5 years, and now associated with Dr. Ziauddin Group since last 1.5 years. So it's been around 20 years of senior IT management experience and I have been into IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, and developing different digital platforms for my organizations, data center management, uh, investing my huge time in cybersecurity, VAPT with different companies. So this is a very small and brief background related to me.
Thank you very much, Khurram sir, for having yourself introduced, and certainly, like the perspective from the technology leaders' point of view in terms of addressing and responding to the digital threats today is very important to see the other side of the coin. So, been looking forward to have the audience engaged with your the experience and knowledge which you will be sharing today. So we're going to start now our discussion on our topic today, which is combating against digital threats with information security. So with this said, I'll be posting I'll start our discussion by posting my first question to Arif Saab is that what are the most common digital threats faced by the organizations today? Or, in other words, how do you see the digital threats landscape inside and Pakistan and around the globe today?
Okay, it's a very challenging type of question. इसमें अगर आप इस तरह देखते हैं कि जी कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को सबसे ज़्यादा थ्रेट किसका है, तो मेरी कोई 27-28 साल का एक्सपीरियंस जो है वो यही कहता है कि जी सबसे बड़ा जो थ्रेट है ना वो उसका यूज़र है. I mean, you have everything, you have firewall, you have standard, you have everything is there. But a user can a simple mistake, by a simple click, he can activate a ransomware and the whole organization will go down. So the main problem nowadays we are
Indeed.
facing, we got all the smart devices, all the smart gadgets, and we are getting AI and everything. But we are still not focusing on the users, which is the weakest link in cybersecurity. There was a rule when I started in security and networks in 2000 that 80% threat were coming from inside. And I think that rule still stands. आज भी जो हमें सबसे बड़ा खतरा वो हमारे यूजर्स का ही है और उस पर ही हम सबसे कम फोकस कर रहे होते हैं. आई मीन वी गो एनीवेयर, हम जितनी भी बात करते हैं विल टॉक अबाउट स्टैंडर्ड प्रोसीजर्स एंड एवरीथिंग, बट focusing on the user is the least we talk about. What kind of
Yeah.
behavior should be there, what kind of training should be there, या उनको सजा किस तरह मिलनी चाहिए, आई मीन पनिशमेंट और एनीथिंग, उन चीज़ों को भी थोड़ा सा फोकस करना चाहिए. तो फ्रॉम माय एंड वी हैव ऑल द हार्डवेयर, ऑल द गैजेट्स, वी हैव ऑल द स्टैंडर्ड्स now. So that's not the big problem now. The weakest chain again is the user.
Yeah, very rightfully said. Like the people in the information security, the the weakest link is always the people who are not prepared and empowered with the right knowledge to identify and respond to the digital threats. So even that, you highlighted a very important aspect of this insider threats as well to the organizations today. So let's take the which we'll discuss in a bit of detail in our in next few minutes. So let's take the discussion forward with Yousaf Saab. So Yusuf, how do you see um, the industrial security playing its part within the digital threats landscape today? Because we've been hearing about the Stuxnet and the attacks on the national infrastructures, plants, and in the during the war of this recent Russian war as well. We have heard a lot about it. How do you see this whole landscape coming up?
Well, I mean, the landscape is going to increase the threat landscape, obviously, as now attackers more and more now targeting critical infrastructure because they have identified uh, the capability of crippling down a nation, for example, if it's a nation state, to attack the very core that runs the country. So that's one aspect of looking at things. However, just compounding on what Mr. Arif said earlier, user awareness on the industrial side is even more lower than on the IT side. So I like to call it like your digital fluency. So threats, cyber security related threats are going to rise because there's an ongoing use of IT type of technology systems within the industrial environment. We are now seeing that the industry is connecting, the OT systems are connecting to the cloud. There's going to be heavy use of AI on the OT side as well. Likewise, so you'll have those growing threats that have already um, affected IT for many businesses, now going to be affecting critical infrastructure. And one of the primary readiness element that we need to look at is like how we are training those staff that's responsible for these cyber physical assets in our environment. Mostly in organization, you have IT and OT running in silos. So IT folks don't understand how the industrial operation works, and the industrial folks don't know how the IT operations work. But when we talk about the industrial 4.0, where we need to connect the entire stack, integrate the entire stack together from cloud to the programmable logic that control that runs the production lines, the line gets blurred even further. So we need to make sure that we understand how these system works, what are their interaction points, what are the threat vectors, possible threat vectors, supply chain related issues, other AI specific threats. All in all, we need to look at the life cycle of the business and see where do we need to integrate cybersecurity elements in the business processes or industrial operations. I hope that answers your question.
Certainly, I mean, certainly looking from a bigger horizon, of course, like where the IT and OT gets converged, and looking into the current cyber threat landscape, I mean, that is a joint effort in order to respond to such incidents, which can topple down all the, not only the business operations generally, the industrial operations, where we do not have the backups, we do not have the luxury of being running the backup plants or the disaster recovery sites and so forth. So as you rightly said, like there is a big part which IT has to play to bridge up this gap of understanding, because if the both parties do not talk and do not understand, and that's where, when I think the Khurram sub, the comments and his viewpoint were going to be very important. Khurram sab, how do you see this landscape affecting, first of all, your conglomerate and your the peers around the industry and geography as well?
Okay, thank you for such question. Let me tell you that since everything is going digital and everything, in healthcare industry, if you talk about, every report for a patient is now on live IP, not on a static IP. Every healthcare industry is taking its all the reports and management patients data on digital platform, and the patient can access each and every report sitting at home. So of course, once you take those IPs live, you have a very serious threat of getting it attacked by any hacker, or any there is phishing, or there might be a VPN vulnerability, or there might be any cloud misconfiguration done by any person. So cyber criminals, it's very easy for them to target those things, to target unsecured networks or target any personal device, because organizations or companies or healthcare industry, they all install different kind of gadgets, different kind of firewall, different, with web application filtering, and do as much secure the configuration is. But the one patient who is connecting from outside, those devices are not on the uh, safer side, or they might have some any I mean to say the virus or any attacks, and they can penetrate once they connect with our network due to any kind of connection. They can penetrate, and cyber criminals have very easy access to target them. So what I believe is cloud environments are very vulnerable unless and until they are properly secured, because they will lead to potential data breaches. So what I see is you must be running cybersecurity awareness to your clients, to your end users, to your internal users. And as far as what Mr. Arif already tell, that there is a problem from internal user. Unless and until you guide them, unless and until you educate them, they bring in devices, they bring in USB devices, they bring in there is a kind of BYOD concept. So once they bring in any of the devices, and if they are not secure, there is a highly possibility that there is a backdoor channel, and any cyber criminal can penetrate into your network. So for me, the landscape is very high. We need to have robust mechanisms as much as possible, because unless and until you make them robust and you secure them, there is a very high tendency that you might got caught with any kind of cyber attack.
Thank you. Thank you very much for painting the landscape from the technology adoption point of view, because one of the element of our increasing threats is introduction of or inclusion of the new technologies, which brings their own risks and add upon on the our risk cyber risk portfolio. Given that the post COVID era now, where we are now, is that most of the or more than half of the world has already moved to the cloud or remote working style. So Arif, what do you think that has been this transformation of this working models to the remote and cloud and all that has increased the cyber threats to our technology infrastructures, or it has been reduced?
अच्छा, खुर्रम भाई की जो बात है मैं उसी को थोड़ा सा आगे करूंगा कि ये कोरोना की वजह से ना हमें बहुत सारी चीज़ों का सामना हुआ। कुछ इस तरह भी हुआ कि हमें पता चल गया ज़िंदगी एक पजामे और टी शर्ट में गुजारी जा सकती है, तो लोगों का इसको भी एहसास हुआ। अच्छा, फिर जो
सर्वाइवल फाइट्स जो है, सर्वाइवल टेक्निक्स एक्चुअली गॉट शार्पन अप।
एग्जैक्टली आप सर्वाइवल कह सकते हो उसको बड़े अच्छे अल्फाज में।
जी जी।
एट दैट टाइम ना उसमें बहुत सारी चीज़ें हमारे सामने आई। नंबर एक, वर्क फ्रॉम होम का एक कॉन्सेप्ट जो स्टार्ट हुआ, दैट गॉट अमेजिंग रिस्पॉन्स, और हर कोई जो ना बड़ा खुश था। हमें उसमें दो बड़े चैलेंजेस आज भी फेस हो रहे हैं। एक तो वर्क फ्रॉम होम की जब आप बात करते हैं, जैसे खुर्रम भाई ने कहा, हमें एंड क्लाइंट को सेव करना पड़ेगा, तो जितने ज़्यादा वर्क फ्रॉम होम के सिनेरियो बनते जाएंगे उतने ज़्यादा एंड क्लाइंट को हमने सिक्योर करना है। तो वो सेंट्रलाइज मैकेनिज्म जो है ना वो आपका डिस्टॉर्ट हो गया। फिर नंबर दो, जो हम आज तक फेस कर रहे हैं वो ये कि हमारी जो जनरेशन है ना, उसने घर से ही काम करने का सोचा हुआ है, कहता मुझे ऑफिस आनी नहीं है, एंड दैट इज मोर डेंजरस, दैट इज रियली मोर डेंजरस देन आवर साइबर सिक्योरिटी थ्रेट। क्योंकि अगर हमारी यूथ को एक प्रोफेशनल एनवायरनमेंट, एक प्रोफेशनल बिहेवियर का नहीं पता चलेगा, वो एक सीरियसनेस की तरफ नहीं आएगी, हम जिस चीज़ को भी फोकस करें, जितना भी उनको ट्रेन करें, वो उसको अडॉप्ट नहीं करेंगे। ये एक बहुत बड़ा थ्रेट बनता जा रहा है हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के लिए, एंड वी आर फेसिंग ऑल ऑफ अस। मेरे ख्याल में हम सबके पास कोई ना कोई एग्जांपल होगी। ये जो हम नई जनरेशन जिसे हम जेन जी कह रहे हैं, अमेजिंग एग्जांपल्स होंगे हमारे पास। तो खैर वो एक अलग है। इसमें एक और बड़ा फैक्टर जो आया वो ये आ रहा है कि जी हम सोशल जो हमारी आपस में गेट टुगेदर और जो मीटिंग्स होती थी ना, दैट्स एंडिंग नाउ। बच्चा जो है वो घर के अंदर मोबाइल के अंदर इज हैप्पी। अच्छा, अब वो थ्रेट का जो एलिमेंट है ना, मैं उसको दो हिस्सों में डिवाइड करता हूँ। एक हमारा वो एलिमेंट है कॉर्पोरेट साइड का, जो हम लोग इसको चेक कर रहे होते हैं, वेयर वी कैन इन्वेस्ट, जहाँ पे हम जिद कर सकते हैं नहीं मुझे ये चाहिए, एंड द मैनेजमेंट विल हैव टू बाय एंड गिव इट टू अस के ओके ठीक है भाई ले यार तू ये। बट जो सेकंड चैप्टर हमारा, जो सेकंड एंगल जो हमारा, दैट्स आवर पर्सनल लाइफ, आवर होम, आवर किड्स, आवर वाइफ्स, ब्रदर एंड सिस्टर्स। वो एक बहुत बड़ा हमारा एक एलिमेंट है थ्रेट का, जिसको हम कंसिडर नहीं कर रहे होते, हम खुद सोचते भी नहीं है। मैं नॉर्मली अपने सेशंस वगैरह जब मेरे होते हैं, मैं पूछता हूँ, तो मैं एक ऐसी रैंडमली सवाल पूछता हूँ कि किस किस के मोबाइल के अंदर एंटीवायरस इंस्टॉल है, जस्ट अ जनरल क्वेश्चन। आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, बालों का 100 200 लोग बैठे होते हैं, एक या दो हाथ ऊपर होते हैं। दैट्स द लेवल ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि यार हमें अपने आप को सिक्योर किस तरह करना है। तो अगेन वो थ्रेट जो है जिसको मैं अपनी फायरवॉल से सिक्योर कर रहा हूँ, जैसे खुर्रम भाई ने कहा बॉयड का BYOD, that person is going to walk in with that threat into my organization and he is going to connect with my Wi-Fi.
Right.
वो उस चीज को फिर मैं किस तरह टैकल करूं? मुझे क्या हर वाईफाई के पीछे फायरवॉल लगानी है? That's not possible. हर मोबाइल वाला या कोई लैपटॉप वाला अगर आ रहा है तो उसको मैं स्कैन करवाऊं, ये करूं, वो करूं। आई मीन वो जॉब ना बढ़ती है। द थ्रेट का लैंडस्केप दैट यू हैव बीन आस्किंग इज ग्रोइंग डे बाय डे। तो थ्रेट जो हम जिसको कंट्रोल करने की कोशिश करते जा रहे हैं, इट्स नॉट गेटिंग कंट्रोल्ड। और सेकंड, जो दूसरे हमारे जो भाई लोग हैं जिनका काम है कि हमें पेनिट्रेट करना, हम जिसे बड़े अच्छे अल्फाज में कहते हैं ब्लैक हैट्स या रेड टीम जिसे हम कहते हैं, उनके लिए तो फेवरेट काम है ना। मैंने अपनी लास्ट पॉडकास्ट में भी ये कहा था, मैंने कहा यू कैन नॉट बीट अ हैकर। आप कुछ भी कर लो, दो वजूहत हैं, मगर मेरे लिए जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है वो सिर्फ एक ही है। वी आर पेड फॉर 9 to 5 या 9 to 6 जॉब, उसके बाद मैंने बंद करना, घर चले जाना है। वी नीड अ सिस्टम विच इज ऑटोमेटेड, कि वो मैं चला जाऊँ मेरे पीछे चलता रहे और वो सारे वर्किंग करता रहे। वी हैव अ सिस्टम, वी हैव इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड एवरीथिंग। वो जो दूसरा ना रेड टीम वाला, वो जो हैकर है, उसको कोई पैसे नहीं देता, उसकी कोई सैलरी नहीं है, एंड ही उसका कोई टाइम नहीं है। वो 9 to 5 9 to 6 नहीं है, इज 24/7। और वो पैशन के साथ बैठा हुआ है, वो जुनून के साथ बैठा हुआ है। उसकी क्रेजीनेस है कि नहीं यार, आई हैव टू ब्रेक थ्रू। ही विल गोइंग टू टेक 10 days 20 days अ ईयर 2 year, मगर वो ब्रेक कर लेगा। तो उस एलिमेंट को भी कंसिडर करना चाहिए। हम हम लोग जब भी साइबर सिक्योरिटी की बात करते हैं, वी नॉर्मली गो फॉर टू थिंग्स, आइदर द हार्डवेयर or the policies or the standards, best practices. That's it. That's the whole cybersecurity we ever talk about. We don't talk about the masses. यार वहाँ पे क्या होना है, किस तरह करना है, उनको किस तरह मैनेज करना है, कंट्रोल करना है। यूजर्स को हम डराते हैं, थ्रेट करते हैं, उनको एजुकेट नहीं करते। So there's a very different angle of everything. Like ransomware is getting so common now. हर दूसरी तीसरी कंपनी से कोई ना कोई आ रहा होता है, यार ये हो गया। उसको आप रोक नहीं सकते ना, जो हमारी स्टैंडर्ड फायरवॉल्स वगैरह लगी हुई हैं या जो सिस्टम लगे हुए हैं। एवरीवन कैन नॉट अफोर्ड अ सीम और अ ह्यूज बिग मशीन्स। इस तरह नहीं हो सकता ना। बहुत सारे हमारे छोटे माइक्रो फाइनेंस बैंक है, उनके पास बहुत बुरा हाल है। तो ये इसको जो ना बहुत सारी लेवल पर हमें देखना पड़ता है, इसको हमें चैलेंज करना पड़ेगा, और अल्लाह जानता है इंशाल्लाह किस तरह होगा।
वेरी राइटफुली सेड, क्योंकि जो आपने तस्वीर कशी की है इसकी insider threat की, and that's very nicely, I think, well elaborated way, which is कि people risk is fundamental risk to address regardless of whatever technology stack we have or whatever cybersecurity practices we have. Though हमारे पास बहुत अच्छे सोल्जर्स, strong soldiers on the ground cyber security team में हों, regardless of that, if we don't educate our end users, its return on investment is again going to be questionable. So taking the discussion forward,
एक पॉइंट छोटा सा, जस्ट गेट अ नंबर कि आप गूगल करें या कहीं से, हमारे पास बहुत सारे पॉसिबल एक्सेस है कि फेसबुक के ऊपर कितनी फेक आईडीज हैं। 10 million प्लस फेक आईडीज हैं जिसको फेसबुक बंद नहीं कर पा रहा होता। यानी मेरी अगर कोई दूसरी आईडी लेके बैठ जाए तो उसके ऊपर एक इशू खड़ा हो जाएगा उसको बंद करने में और उसको कुछ भी करने में, और वो बंदा जो है दूसरों से पैसे भी मांग रहा होगा और वो सारे काम कर रहा होगा.
Yeah, so that's raises another question of, like, that mean how to address the social type of risks, which are penetrating into our organizational perimeters through the social media networks. So there are several aspects of looking into these, the attack vectors. So since I'm aware of the time factor, Yusuf Saab, my next question is that, because Arif Sab has painted a broader perspective of the cyber threats, especially like in terms of addressing the core or more highly important focused areas of the cybersecurity, such as people risk, lack of cybersecurity awareness, insider threats, and all that. How do you see that? I mean, what sort of like attack vectors we commonly see these days, other than the phishing attacks and these things, ransomware we have touched upon, or what are the common types of cyber attacks which we have observed within the technology space and the OT space as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Obviously, I mean, there are plenty of them. So if we talk about one form of an attack that's being constantly leveraged by attackers, is called living off the land attacks, whereby attackers are leveraging native capabilities of your systems, applications, and their commands to perform and further their malicious activity, which is much harder to detect actually, because your antivirus, your EDR solution will detect them as like normal activity. So that's one form of attack that's being used in the wild quite often. Then having remote access capabilities within your environment, especially your industrial sector. The industry have seen a number of attacks targeting remote access to these industrial systems. And Ukraine power attack is one of the famous one, where remote access capabilities were utilized to then use remote access trojans, to remote access tools to infiltrate and take down the systems. So those are one other form of attacks. Earlier this year, I mean, we saw, especially in Hong Kong, a very innovative AI deepfake attack, where the CFO ID was deepfaked, and the finance team was lower into um, issuing millions worth of transactions to different multiple banks. And later on, it was found out that it was not the CFO who used to sit in UK instead of Hong Kong. There was some infiltration by a group of individuals who actually done the research on the organization. They know how the CFO talked, probably picked up from social media. So those are other sort of threats. Supply chain is becoming another issue for organizations, where software supply chain related vulnerabilities are introduced into different third-party applications that you might be using on your industrial environment. So those are something that are less addressed, because organizations are less mature in terms of their supply chain scrutiny or the process scrutiny side of things. Even if you have developers developing applications, they on and off are using open source components. And recently, I mean, earlier this year, there was one attack. I'm forgetting the application on GitHub that was hijacked and infiltrated with malicious code in it, that was being used by a number of software vendors. So those sorts of attacks are of concerns for organization, and you know, uh, both organizations, both in Pakistan and outside, are not mature or ready to tackle these challenges. I mean, I'm not talking about very mature organizations. There are very few of them, but in general, in particular, small SMB or SME environments have not thought this through, have not figured out or identified the channels.
Yeah, if I just
And
add on that, man, just recently the world has witnessed this CrowdStrike related
yeah,
vulnerability, and that's one of the key example of the supply chain impact, and that was a cascaded all the way down to to internal departments as well, and affected the industries and businesses. So similarly, there are a lot of other examples users have, like as if I recall, like man in the middle attack, recon is a very common types, apts which are working around all over the world. So
yeah.
uh, um, what do you think, just to add on the same discussion on the same angle, is the on the industrial side as well, the attacks have becomes more devious, more sophisticated after the Stuxnet, and then the industry or 1 and 2 came, and recently the example you have highlighted about the Ukraine power grid. What do you think that mean? How or what is the direction going forward for addressing such kind of risks?
I mean, we need to work on our foundational controls. I mean, most organizations actually lack maturity on their for foundational controls. The foundation controls could be like, making sure that any remote access or access to your critical assets, both on our IT side or the OT side, is protected through MFA. I mean, many organizations have started using it, but some organization, I've recently come across one organization that was just about to start using MFA, and they choose SMS. And I said to them, I said, okay, this is not going to work on the long run, because we know there are attacks related to SMS. If you are choosing a solution, MFA solution, that's only providing you a service based on SMS, then there's already known issues related to that. Um, then uh, I've seen industrial organizations putting control systems connected directly to the external interfaces, or PLC talking to internet directly, or an HMI, human machine interface, whereby an operator manages the machine or monitors the machine. They seems to be talking to the internet when we go in and put a sensor to discover network activity. Then we figure out all these basic issues, unpatched system, default passwords. These are prevalent in the industrial environment, and because many industrial protocols are also clear text. So that's another challenge. And then you have legacy systems where you have no longer any patches available. Like I've done a project recently, where we found, across 100 plus manufacturing facility, a number of embedded Windows system, Windows XP, Windows 2000, which had no support anymore, and they were critical to the manufacturing operations. So we need to address um, these issues as well, with the higher level of monitoring capability, alerting capabilities, and then making sure that we have, like, have at least basic hardening or cyber hygiene in place for these assets.
Yeah, which is very critical in terms of the vendor-based solutions, where the top-notch, I think the vendors which monopolize the efforts, such as Schneider, Honeywell, and most of the solutions are delivered by them, and nobody can touch them, and there's no patches until unless they're uh, released. So without their continued involvement, and with the heavy cost, it comes to address a lot of security controls from an industry front. So taking the discussion forward with Khurram Saab being the head of the IT, how do you see that? What sort of practices you follow within your organization and conglomerate in order to address or identify or address such cybersecurity threats, which we have been discussing now?
Yeah, thank you. To take the discussion further, well, as Mr. Yousaf already explained in detail about all these things, these are the major risks that an organization is carrying. You know, So to have a secure and protected environment, you need to, or organizations need to take the secure sensitive data, which with which is both at rest and in transit should be encrypted. So we need, or organizations need to ensure that all the data that is being published or in use, and the data which is in the rest, it should be encrypted, and it should be decrypted with proper decryptor, or the one who is authorized to decrypt that data. So what I feel is there is a lack of proper access control mechanism. Role-based access controls should be implemented, and the persons who have a proper access control should have the access to modify or verify the data. But that should also be recorded, not an open-minded. Plus, what Mr. Yusuf and already informed that due to legacy systems, organizations face very severe issues, because unless and until the systems are not up to date and the patches are not have been applied, there is a very potential and high risk that the system can be compromised, and any cyber criminal from outside can come inside your network and get it. I mean to say, ransomware attack should be possible, DDoS attack should be possible. There are as many attacks. So I think the security should be beefed up. Proper network segmentation should be done by the networks and firewalls team, so that you can limit the spread of the attacks. And the companies and organizations should use the TLS or SSL protocols, because these are the very secure communication protocols. Even though the hackers have some tools and have the things which can broke the SSL and TLS, but still it is considered as much more secure than previous one. But what I think is, as Mr. Yusuf and Mr. Arif already informed, that the encryption and tokenization system should be used, because unless, and there were USB keys like token system, which are being used by C Secure or any other RCS Secure. These are being used by many companies in order to protect the environment. What I believe is majority of the organizations are commonly missing to add those elements, to add those unique identifier tokens. And because unless and until you take these steps, you are very high risk prone. And it's very important for organizations to stay safe and secure from unauthorized access by having these protocols, by having these things implemented in the organization. So it will beef their security up, and they will have some strong solution. Because as far as we see in 2024, you can have a list. Already you informed about the recent one, which was all US companies were hijacked. We have already Ivanti VPNs which were compromised, and breach of Microsoft executive accounts, which impacted the US government earlier in US government agencies. So there is a very high possibility. As Mr. Arif said, we have the time to work on 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or some 8 to 10 hours, but the hacker is working 24/7 to breach and get inside the network and to demolish the security. So they are working day and night to break. So there are data of more than 200 million Twitter account they were leaked. As you already, Mr. I've said that many accounts are on the Facebook, which are being duplicated or impersonated. So I think we need to take very serious measures, very serious filtering at our end, at organizational end, to streamline the security.
So very comprehensively said, Khurram Sahib, because definitely the tech leaders and the cyber security leaders as well within the organizations, they have to take the all effort back to the foundation. So if the foundational controls are strong, all the pillars above the foundation gonna be strong as well. And there are all the aspects of like which have been highlighted earlier: the insider threats, supply chain, strengthening the technology controls, all works together. But nonetheless, until unless it has been carefully designed and implemented, I mean, tool is end of the day is a tool. So Arif sir, what's your take on this? Tool is end of the day is a tool. If a lot of organizations are investing in cybersecurity, the components right and left, without especially like those organizations which got victimized or goes through an incident breach or something, they started investing heavily in the cybersecurity technologies, but they end up again either inappropriate configurations, inadequate implementations, where end user is not happy. So what's your take on this? How to bridge this gap?
मैं इसको ना थोड़ा सा एक डिफरेंट एंगल से आपको 5 पॉइंट पे लेकर आता हूँ साइबर सिक्योरिटी के इस वक्त के,
Right.
जो सबसे ज़्यादा इस वक्त दुनिया में डिस्कशन पे चल रहे हैं. नंबर एक जो है हमारा वो है डिफेंस इन डेप्थ. जब हम डिफेंस इन डेप्थ की बात करते हैं तो डजंट मीन कि मैंने सिर्फ फायरवॉल लगा लिया एंड आई एम सिक्योर. इट मीन्स दैट आई हैव टू सिक्योर ऑन एवरी लेवल. मुझे पैरामीटर सिक्योरिटी चाहिए, मुझे अपने डेटाबेस की सिक्योरिटी अलग चाहिए, उसको एनक्रिप्ट करना है, देन मुझे एंड यूज़र को सिक्योर करना है, देन मोबाइल ऐप्स जो उनकी सिक्योरिटी अलग है, अगर ब्राउज़र यूज़ कर रहे हैं उस पर SSL HTTPS वगैरह. आई मीन देयर टन ऑफ थिंग्स. आपको तमाम चीज़ें एक्टिव करना पड़ती हैं. तो डिफेंस इन डेप्थ की जब हम बात कर रहे होते हैं तो इनकी सबके आपस में क्रॉस इंटीग्रेशन भी चेक करना पड़ती है, हाउ दीज आर ऑल वर्किंग. नॉर्मली दे कैन वर्क सेपरेटली, उसमें इतना इशू नहीं होता है. सेकंड, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अंदर जो एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है दैट्स प्रिविलेजेस. यूजर प्रिविलेजेस जो हैं वो हम नोट नहीं कर रहे होते. समटाइम वी गिव एक्सेस राइट्स टू द यूजर विच इज़ नॉट नेसेसरी. समटाइम्स यूजर चला जाता है और उसकी आईडी हमें नजर आ रही होती है कि इट्स स्टिल देयर. These are the bad practices in normal organizations where standards are not being followed. फिर एक हमारे पास बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है विद इन IT डिपार्टमेंट, विद इन साइबर सिक्योरिटी डिपार्टमेंट, सेपरेशन ऑफ ड्यूटीज. जो हमारी SOPs हैं उसके ऊपर ड्यूटीज की सेपरेशन पे काम नहीं किया जाता. हम कहते हैं कि यार एक आदमी से मल्टीपल काम ले लें, हमें दूसरा बंदा हायर नहीं करना पड़ेगा. सेठ के पैसे जा रहे हैं ना, तो सेठ तंग होता है बेचारा. तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम होता है कि आपको आइडेंटिफाई करना पड़ता है कि किसको किस लेवल तक जो है ना यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं. ये एक बहुत सीरियस इशू होता है. फिर हम ओवरऑल व्हेन वी आर डिजाइनिंग द होल थिंग, वी डोंट कंसीडर इट डिजाइनिंग बाय सिक्योरिटी. वी जस्ट डिजाइन इट लाइक नॉर्मली व्हेन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज बीन डिजाइन, उसको डिजाइन करते वक्त सिक्योरिटी का एक्सपेक्ट नहीं देखा जाता. जब वो डिजाइन हो जाता है उसके बाद सोचते हैं यार इसको सिक्योर करना भूल गए, यार अच्छा चलो इसको ऐसा करते हैं. That's not right.
Yeah, because they don't intend to involve the security professionals from the day first of the project.
Exactly.
Because they consider security professionals as hurdles, or they may introduce more complications, cost, and all that. Later on, they end up paying like more than double of the cost itself, like correcting, following or implementing the corrective measures.
There's not a single software house, मेरी इल्म में जो है, not a single software house in Pakistan जो security standards को from the start, from the beginning उसको consider करता है. वो कब करता है? जब client कहता है यार इसमें ये तो है ही नहीं, इसमें तो ये प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है. अच्छा, लास्ट जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है, जो हम लोग थोड़ा सा ओवर कर जाते हैं, एक वर्ड है इंग्लिश का किस. नॉर्मली इट स्टैंड्स फॉर कीप इट शॉर्ट एंड सिंपल, बट फॉर साइबर सिक्योरिटी इट स्टैंड फॉर कीप इट शॉर्ट and stupid.
Right.
Meaning, don't make your security complex. ये हमारा जो ना बड़ा शोषा है सिक्योरिटी वालों को, that make things try to make so complex कि वो बाद में खुद ही परेशान होते हैं, अबे ये मैंने क्या कर दिया। अच्छा, उसमें यूजर फ्रस्ट्रेट होता है, फिर वो क्या करता है, फिर वर्क अराउंड करता है कि नहीं यार ये ऐसे नहीं जा सकता मैं, क्योंकि इसमें बहुत सारे हर्डल्स हैं, तो मैं इसको ऐसे कर लेता हूँ। I mean, I have seen organizations which have done things कि आप तो सोच नहीं सकते। I'm a consultant and auditor ना, तो मैं जब जाता हूँ चेक करता हूँ लोगों के environments को, बड़ी बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अंदर, you'll be surprised कि कैसे कैसे काम किए होते हैं। फायरवॉल को बाईपास करने के लिए केबल लगाया होता है, पूरी फायरवॉल बाईपास हो रही है केबल के जरिए। व्हाट्स द यूज। अच्छा, फिर सेकंड लास्टली जो हमारा एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है, मैं अपनी बात को शॉर्ट कर रहा हूँ, मुझे नजर आ रहा है कि टाइम शॉर्ट हो गया। वो बेसिक हमारा जो फैक्टर है ना एआई का, हम लास्ट एक सेशन उसको हम ले भी चुके हैं एआई के ऊपर। एआई साइबर सिक्योरिटी में इज गोइंग टू बी अ वेरी बिग थिंग, और वो उतना ही हमारे लिए खतरनाक भी है। बिकॉज एआई को जो हम यूज कर रहे हैं, वो एआई को हम 4 डोमेन में यूज कर रहे हैं। नंबर एक, इन्वेस्टिगेशन, वो इन्वेस्टिगेट करेगा एआई। सेकेंडली, वो आइडेंटिफाई करके देगा हमें। थर्ड, वो हमें फिर उसकी रिपोर्ट करके देगा। एंड फोर्थ, द मोस्ट डेंजरस थिंग, वो एआई हमें रिसर्च करके देगा। ये एक मॉडल है। अब ये अगर मॉडल एक काम कर रहा है, थिंक द डेटा दैट एआई विल बी नीडिंग, और उस डेटा को अगर रॉन्गली कोई अप्रोच कर ले, क्योंकि मैं यही कहता हूं कि हम एआई को साइबर सिक्योरिटी के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं, मगर एआई को कौन सिक्योर कर रहा है, ये भी एक चैलेंज है।
राइट, इस पे आगे डिस्कशन यही लेके चलते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर हाईलाइटिंग अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट, जो कि मेरा नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन वाज अबाउट द सेम थिंग, लाइक कि यूसुफ साहब, as we discussed earlier, that when every new technology brings its own risk. So being that said, as Arif Saab rightfully said, like AI itself is becoming a sort of risk to us if we are not, you know, adopting or acquiring the AI in an appropriate or in secure manner. So how do you think, like, you know, the AI is introduced or contributing more towards increasing the risks, or it's like helping the organizations strengthening their, you know, the cyber defense efforts? How do you see both sides of it?
Yeah, this like with any other new emerging technology, there are pros and cons related to it. On the con side, obviously, we are going to say heightened use of AI in crafting sophisticated attacks. We have already started seeing phishing emails with improved language capabilities. Previously, the language was really bad, so you can understand and detect. A normal digital savvy person can detect that, okay, this being written by somebody who's not a native English speaker. But now that's going to go away with generative AI generated text for your email phishing. Similarly, chatbots and other activity that's going to happen. As we are depending more and more on these generative AI chatbot type of solutions for our decision makings in terms of their outputs, we'll see new forms of AI threats. We've already seen some attacks corrupting the training data. So you see hallucination, the concept of hallucination, where AI give you some weird output. So the software or tech stack behind AI itself is vulnerable to all similar sort of threats that we have previously seen on the application side in general, higher level, as well as on its infrastructure also. So how do we make sure those layers are secured within the AI is also a concern. I mean, if you go to a Hugging Face, like one famous website where you can download different LLMs, there have been cases where we have seen that those LLMs were specially crafted with corrupted data or malicious content in it, and as you install and run them on your systems, your environment gets affected as well. So these sorts of threats are going to increase. for sure. But at the same time, on the pro side, we also see that we can utilize um, these chatbots, agents, and generative AI capabilities in our detection. But it's not going to be enough. So we need to put certain process elements around these solutions in order to make sure that, okay, just for as an example, like, detecting deep fakes in near future is going to be very difficult as the capability improves by these tools. It's going to make it very difficult for people to actually identify and detect these deepfakes. So we need to build processes around those deepfakes for validation, just to make sure that we are spotting these anomalies, even if our technology detection capabilities misses them out. So that's one aspect of it. We have already seen people now utilizing generative AI based capabilities to create policies, your awareness training, um, and all sorts of other incident response tabletop exercises, um, which are very well relevant to organization, um, all sorts of organizations these days, and they can simulate attacks. If you just give them the right prompts, they can give you multiple scenarios that you can tabletop within your organization, which used to be quite expensive and quite longer duration activity in the past. So there are definite benefits as well. So as defenders, we actually need to make sure that we are also leveraging the capabilities, because most of the time what's happening is defenders are just playing the catch-up game, whereas attackers are actually ahead of the curve most in time in evaluating these new technologies.
Yeah, thank you very much for painting the threat landscape for the AI technologies, though, because recently all over the globe it is becoming a very hot topic to discuss, and post to the European Union AI Act, which has been recently released
Yeah.
to highlight and enforce, the AI related risks, and to enforce the responsible practices while adopting or acquiring the AI technologies. It became like evident or unavoidable that we need to have a proper check and balances, a proper AI governance in place, where global organizations have also started releasing the guidelines as well to how and when it is recommended to acquire what sort of technologies which are AI empowered, and how to deal with them. As far as hallucinations are concerned, that's very much related to the trained data and the patterns or the model which we select, and that the training data which we pass to the model. So that uh, basically triggers whatever the wrong or unexpected results we introduce. That's one of the common attack for the cyber hackers as well. So
Well, we
taking
have
the discussion forward, yes, please.
Sure. So I just wanted to add, like, yeah, you talk about hallucination. We have already have seen technologies called RAG, retrieval augmentation generation, which help enforces system to be more accurate and train it with better data. But we are also seeing at the same time, research that's happening on how to circumvent this RAG technology element. So it's going to be a mouse and cat chase in the long run.
Exactly, Tom and
So
Jerry, and who or egg and chicken. So it's
yeah,
all that who comes first, and who takes the first bit. So with that said, Puram sir, would you like to add from your side of this discussion, given that if I kindly request to keep it brief?
See, what Mr. Yusuf already said is explained in very detail. So what I think is, artificial intelligence leverage AI. So they need to check the large volumes of data to say, and to check what the patterns are and what are the anomalies and the indicative of threats for any organizations. So in order to cater those things, what we said and what my point is, we need to have automated responses, because unless and until we don't have any automated responses, we can't detect the threats, we can't reduce the response times, and we can't uh, take things very seriously. So I believe there should be some threat intelligence mechanism for getting the predictive analysis and predictive potential threats in line for the course of next line course of action. So, and above all, what I see is, there is a what we learn in ITIL framework. It's continuous learning. We need to learn from each other. We need to have a continuous learning to improve the data accuracy and effectiveness in detecting the emerging threats. Zero-day attacks are very vulnerable. Even though you have a firewall which have 12,000 plus signatures, and if there is any zero-day attack comes and whose patch or whose bug is not with the vendor, we can compromise the security. So what I mean to say, keep getting the security beefed up at every state, be it from software end, be it from hardware end. Upgrade the legacy systems, upgrade the applications, and test. Rerun the test cycle, perform vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Do whatever you can to safeguard the organization's data. That is pivotal, and that is required from your job. That's it. This is a
Right.
very
Thank you.
simple and very comprehensive thing which I just
Indeed.
yeah.
Indeed, Khurram sir, that's I think the one of the best advice for any the technology leaders of the organizations, while considering the acquisitions of the technology components or software or whatever the hardware or additional technology, emerging technologies perspective. So thank you so much. And considering the shortage of time, and we are only few minutes left, um, Arif Sab, like Khurram Sab said, like he has given a final thought, shared his final thoughts with the audience. Please, your final some takeaway points if you'd like to share with our audience.
मैं हमेशा से एक ही बात कहता हूँ और उस पर ही मेरा तवज्जो होती है. We, as a nation, as an individual, as a corporate, we should really, really take cybersecurity seriously. It's not just only about keeping your hardware update or installing a new firewall. It's all about all of us. I worked with government agencies and with the forces. I've seen a lot of cases, a lot of things, and it's very threatening. As a nation, we are on a stake 24/7 from anywhere and everywhere. So it's a very serious topic, and we should all consider it on daily basis that how to improvise and implement it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very short, to the point and crisp. So, Yusuf Sab, your final takeaway, please.
Yeah, I'll just expand what Mr. Arif said, rightly said, that we are being faced with threats all over from everywhere. We need to, from as a business, need to draft and build and define a high value cybersecurity and resilience strategy for our businesses, as well as for our own personal digital lives. So the element of education is of a high importance. Um, we have massive talent within our um, country, and I believe that that talent needs to be crafted in the right direction. The only thing that we need is the right direction, the right ecosystem, and there's a bright future ahead of us. So And I defined cyber resilience as like, readiness, visibility, measurement for defending, responding, and recovering for any form of cyber attack. So if we are working towards that, then we'll be fine. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. So that's basically just to conclude up our discussion is that cybersecurity today is not a luxury; it's a necessity.
Yes.
The people who think it's a profession, no, it's not a profession today because everyone is getting impacted. So it's basically a lifestyle for a well-aware people, nation, and organizations. So with this said, I hope all the audience have benefited from our discussion, from our very knowledgeable experts of the panel. So looking forward to engage in the next coming the podcast as well. So with that said, thank you very much the speakers, and thank you very much the audience wherever you have connected today. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Nice talking to you guys. Bye bye.